RWBY is filled to the brim with characters. Most of them are not much to make note of, but every blue moon the writers create someone memorable. This, in my opinion, can be applied to Tyrian, Winter, and of course, Ironwood. Sadly, Ironwood's character was not only wasted, but completely ruined in the aftermath of becoming the best character in the series. In today's video, I'm going to discuss Ironwood's highs and his lows, as well as how I believe Rooster Teeth could have made the best use of his character and development in the series. Ironwood was always a cool character. Even when introduced as a slightly douchey, uptight military man, Ironwood was shown to have depth beyond just this. Upon his introduction in the earlier volumes, Ironwood, although paranoid, was shown to be this way for a good reason. At the time we didn't know this, but the threat of Salem was an immense one, so his straight edge behavior as well as bringing a large army to a peaceful event is completely justified. Ironwood also is the first person to question Ozpin's behavior, which isn't something anyone else has had the judgment or perception to do. This establishes that Ironwood isn't a one-track mind. Even with his few scenes, he is established as a complex character with goals and dedication that cause him to be judged by those around him, sometimes reasonably and other times not. What's more, when Cinder initiates the Grim invasion on Beacon, Ironwood stands up to them despite his army being hacked, as well as offering the students a choice to leave or defend their nations and schools.
Grim are crawling all over the city. The White Fangs invaded Beacon, and to make matters worse, some vagabond has seized one of my ships. Until we regain command, the skies are out of our control. So I'm going to take it back.
This shows empathy, as well as an understanding beyond the greater good. Most importantly, in the face of a bad situation, Ironwood put the well-being of others before anything else and put himself in harm's way to do the best to ensure victory. On top of this, he is the one after the fall of Beacon to take over what Ozpin left behind, as well as directly ensuring the creation and delivering of the new prosthetic for Yang, who, I might add, never acknowledges that with him nor thanks him directly.
Brand new, state-of-the-art Atlas tech. You know, I thought I was gonna have to pull some strings, call in a few favors, but you earned this one all on your own, kiddo.
Huh?
Before I could even talk to him, General Ironwood already had one of his top scientists working on this. For you. He wanted me to tell you that you fought admirably.
We'll get more into Team RWBY's ungratefulness later though. Ironwood continues to defend Weiss at a party where she was put in a bad spot due to words and ignorance from Atlas elites. All his overall great leadership and caring behavior comes to a head when Team RWBY finally meets up with him with the lamp and decides to repay his trust and kindness by lying to him. After the initial lie, after the team got upset with Ozpin for lying and promising no more lies themselves, Ironwood proceeds to train them, upgrade their weapons and armor, and grant them their licenses while praising them as trustworthy allies. I hate to keep repeating myself, but I think it's important to focus on what's heavily established and in character for Ironwood, as well as why he's my personal favorite RWBY character to date. He even has one of the best fights in the series where he loses his last, proving how heroic and selfless he truly is. After the constant lying and backstabbing of Team RWBY comes to a head with Ironwood discovering Cinder was an Atlas, Ironwood understandably begins to distrust all those around him. Since the writing staff wants Team RWBY to be perceived as good despite all the lies and deceit, we won't get introspective or varying opinions in this moment about whether Ironwood or RWBY should be followed among the other characters. Instead, we are basically gaslit into thinking Ironwood is evil, and this is made worse by an extreme change in his character. Remember how I said under pressure, Ironwood was shown before to not only be able to handle the situation intellectually and with empathy, but also responsibly and without the sacrifice of innocence or those who may not follow his own path. Recall the attack on Beacon for a good example. So what does he do when someone disagrees with him? He kills them. A defenseless man with no aura apparently. In a panel, they make it especially obvious that they wanted to sway people in the direction to believing Ironwood was a villain instead of letting us form our own opinions or maybe find him more complex than evil. This butchering continues, bad decision after bad decision on Ironwood's end until he decides to leverage the lives of thousands as well as RWBY's friends and family. Keep in mind, this same Ironwood didn't care about what others thought of his plans and decided to take whatever responsibility necessary with the execution of those plans. I won't go through every single bad choice the writers made involving Ironwood, since that's literally the entirety of Volume 8, but I'd like you all to consider Ironwood's plan and sacrifice of his own public image just to be the last line of protection for the world versus his current perception. I think what makes matters worse in all this is not that Ironwood became a villain, it's how his descent begins, is executed, and most importantly, how it ends. Ironwood's fight with Winter, as well as the lack of any proper dialogue before his death, show that the writers were just ready to get rid of his character for the sake of driving the others forward in the plot. Ironwood and Winter's fight is hollow and lacking the emotional depth and turmoil from either side to show us that either of them cared about each other before fighting. Winter seemingly developed a sort of father-daughter connection with Ironwood, similar to that of Weiss and Ironwood via him defending her frequently against jocks. Instead of trying to talk him down or maybe even offering to save him after defeating him, since she is a hero, she just abandons Ironwood as an afterthought, knowing he would die if she didn't help him one way or the other. On top of this, Ironwood doesn't even get final words against Salem or Cinder, disrespecting his character further by giving him a boring and bland death in the collapse of Atlas. Keep in mind, this would have never happened if Team RWBY didn't go there, and likely could have been avoided if they didn't lie to him or the writers handled the subplot differently. When criticizing and reviewing a story, those who disagree with a perspective will always ask, okay, so you could do any better? I won't go as far as to say I alone could have written a better story because, hindsight helps see the errors before making them. However, I do think the overall writing style and lack of attention the writing team for RWBY put into their characters is something most novices can avoid, even without a team or foresight. If I were to rewrite Ironwood to fit the current state of RWBY's storyline, I would start by adjusting the characters' opinions, or lack thereof, from RWBY's lie to Ironwood. I think it would be more interesting and much more realistic to see more of the team disagree and even side with Ironwood in this scenario. Like maybe Ren or even Oscar or Crow. This doesn't mean they should go work alongside him, but they should confront RWBY about the consequence of her actions in that moment, like how Yang does later down the line. Most importantly, I think Ironwood shouldn't even consider the direct murder or harm of innocents, like shooting the councilman or threatening to bomb Mantle. Instead, I believe he would focus more on capturing or convincing Penny via hacking or some other method. Since Ironwood isn't as dumb as they allowed him to be for Watts to take advantage of him, Watts could simply escape using some other gadget hidden in his tooth, like a death pill in Metal Gear Solid. Ironwood at this state would never trust Team RWBY or Penny or Watts or anyone really, except maybe Winter, to directly comply without extreme measures, so the fight where they capture him would never occur to begin with. On top of that, the gun that they gave him, whatever that's supposed to be, is kind of unnecessary and honestly a nerf. I don't think that should be included at all. So basically, here's where we are. Ironwood and the RWBY fight or argue about what's best for everyone. Ironwood decides to sick the Atlas elites on them. That fight should go way differently, but for the sake of this video, I'm not going to get into that. Let's just say they do escape. From there, Ironwood would focus more on capturing Penny or convincing her to come back, or hacking her just so he can execute his plan. His goal wouldn't be to kill or harm anyone directly, as it doesn't really benefit his plan. Team RWBY is not essential to him succeeding. Yes, they are the ones in possession of Penny, but via hacking her, it wouldn't really matter. On top of this, I think Ironwood should focus the Aesop's attention on searching for the intruders in Atlas and Mantle on Team Witch, since he's aware of their presence. It would also be in character to see Ironwood speak with Crow about Clover, RWBY's lie, and the current state of things to get more introspective on Ozpin, thus deepening his resolve to save as many as he can logically, and maybe even swaying his opinion a little, putting in those cracks in his character that Winter can exploit during their fight. Ironwood would essentially continue to hold the weight of humanity on his shoulders, while allowing Team RWBY to waste their time as long as they don't intervene with his plan to save Atlas. I do believe everything would eventually tie into Ironwood versus Winter fight either way, where he finds out about her betrayal and assistance with freeing Penny if he were to capture her. Here, we would see more regret and sadness from both sides, with Penny still dying and Winter still getting the Maiden powers to overpower Ironwood. It would be more interesting and more likely to see Ironwood be saved by having saved her from the path her father wanted her to go down. If all this is a little too complex for you, here's a better way to have avoided any of this on Team RWBY's end. Winter reasons and explains that they have plenty of airships to transport Mantle citizens to Atlas from the Snee Dust Company, and it would only require some time. This could have made the bomb an effective means of slowing Salem, or just keeping the Ozpin subplot of nuking the whale. We can have Ironwood tell them eventually time's up and continue the plot from there. But this adds so much more to his character as he continues to show his empathy from before, as well as his resolve to protect the greater good at the end. This would prevent the butchering of Ironwood's character and maintain his intellect, emotional depth, and all the other factors that carry the entirety of Volume 7. In the end, it's clear to see how Ironwood was the best and worst character in RWBY. Well, maybe not the worst, but I'll get into that in another video. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like on this video and maybe comment down below. Do you think Ironwood was handled right? Do you enjoy the way that he was handled? Or are you one of those people that think he could have had a better ending? Do you think he should have died or lived? Who do you think was butchered more, him or Adam? Let me know down in the comment section down below. and subscribe if you want to see more RWBY content in the future. It's your boy Zeref signing off. Peace. Thanks for watching.